All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Kimberly Galbraith at PPMD, and we're really excited that you have joined us today. And even more so, we're excited that Amy Napoli has joined us to host today's webinar. Health coach and owner of Balanced Healthy Self, Amy has decided to become a health coach to fulfill her passion of working with busy individuals to improve their health and life balance through nutrition, fitness, and overall wellness. Many of you may know, but just to give you a little bit of history, Duchenne entered Amy's life 10 years ago when her nephew was formally diagnosed with Duchenne. And since then, she has been an active and consistent and a member of the Run for Our Sons team and an advocate, of course, for Duchenne awareness. Amy has received her training through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition Cutting-Edge Health Coach Training Program, focusing on each individual's specific needs and goals. She works with clients and helps them make lifestyle changes that produce really lasting and real results. Now, Amy is going to talk to us today about taking care of ourselves, and sometimes I think as a caregiver, you put yourselves second. And I think Amy's approach is really wonderful and I think something that our community needs. And I'm really glad to have you here with us, Amy, and thankful that you're doing this webinar for us.
Thanks for having me. All right. So, hey, everyone. Thank you so much for taking this time for yourselves. To PPMD, Kim, thank you for allowing me to reach out to your community and share ideas and tips on how to create balance and wellness for our boys' caregivers. The life-altering changes Duchenne's puts on our boys is immense, but its grasp reaches out beyond to our caregivers. You seamlessly step in to care for your child, sacrificing your own physical and emotional needs by placing them on the back burner, as Kim said. Today we will discuss how to take a healthy approach to nutrition, exercise, and overall wellness while still being an amazing caregiver. We will discuss the pitfalls to the lack of self-care and tips on how to implement lifestyle changes that are easily integrated into your already very busy lives. We are joined by fellow DMD mom, Jennifer Garofalo, my sister. Hey, Jen. To discuss how self-care has changed her approach to living with a Duchenne's diagnosis. Jen, at any point in time, please feel free to jump in with your insight. We would appreciate it. Send your questions in as you have them. I'll try to get to them all. If I miss any, I'll definitely follow up with you after the call. All right. So a little bit about myself. As Kim said, my name is Amy Napoli. I am a health coach and owner of Balanced Healthy Self. I work with overscheduled, overstressed individuals who are looking to improve their health through nutrition, exercise, and overall wellness. I work side by side with my clients to build a plan that's easily integrated into their busy lives to make positive changes and reach their goals. I have been a hygienist for the past 20 years, and I have watched the list of medications that my patients take get longer and longer. And I ask every patient if they've had any changes in medications or health before I begin. I knew something had to change when one of my patients answered that they were on the middle-age regimen. Not knowing what that was, of course, I inquired. And they explained to me, high blood pressure meds, high cholesterol meds. And I asked them, was this okay that they considered it a given that we would all eventually take this kind of medication? And while I truly believe there's a time and a place for medication, through diet, exercise, and lifestyle choices, we can control some of the outcome. As Kim said, Duchenne's entered my life 10 years ago when my nephew Danny was diagnosed. That feeling of being on a sinking ship was immediate. But when my sister asked us to run for Our Sons in Disney that following year, it was as if a lifeline was thrown to us. Pounding out anger, fear, and love on the pavement with a mantra in my head of for Danny made running become a passion. I've since run over a dozen marathons and countless half marathons. Never did I think running would become such an important part of my life, but pushing my body beyond limits I believe are possible is nothing compared to what our boys endure daily, as all of you know. Every year we're raising the bar higher and higher to fundraise and create awareness about Duchenne's. And while I wish that this disease was never part of our lives, I'm proud to be part of such a great community. So here's a little glimpse into a caregiver's story. You are on 24/7. You're found repositioning in bed in the middle of the night, using the cough assist to provide relief, toileting and showering, tilting a glass up when our boys can't, remembering to charge the wheelchair, dividing up medication for the week, hugging and laughing at the smallest thing, and drying the tears while your heart breaks. All of these tasks come from responsibility, but first and foremost, they come from love. However, all of these tasks are going to take a physical and emotional toll on your body. And you'll see that there's anger at DMD, loss of dreams, relentless needs, anxiety at what the future is going to hold, stress that comes from lack of sleep and rest, isolation due to limitations in your schedule and our boys being labeled different, exhaustion with being on for 24/7, and guilt for feeling like you need a break, and some days you just don't want to be the it person anymore. It's okay. You're human, so you can't be everything to everyone at all points in time. Jen, I wanted to ask you, do you find that any of these mirror some of your daily life?
I think the guilt is probably the biggest one that I struggle with, and most moms and dads that I talk with, especially when you get angry the fourth or fifth time in the middle of the night that you're turning someone, turning your son, and even though you know in your heart that this is the place you're supposed to be at that moment, you're also really, really, really tired and you just don't want to get up again. And it's good to, Danny and I have a great rapport where I can be like, I'm so sorry, bud. And, we can laugh about it and joke about it. And that's helped us to overcome that little piece of that.
Yeah, I think that's crucial. I think, innately things come to us as far as anxiety being there and exhaustion, but to really create an awareness and see that guilt is a huge part of this for the caregiver is very important for everyone to see. The next thing that we're going to talk about is just the overall health impact. There's several key factors that come into play. Stress being number one. We know that stress is a precursor to headaches, upset stomach, sleep issues, high blood pressure, and all of these symptoms create a cycle of where you're unable to fully care for your child, and potentially you're creating long-term illnesses that could impact your long-term ability to care for your child. The next big one for you is totally lifting. The physical demands that DMD places on you are immense. With every lift or reposition, you're using muscles that are continually stressing your body. And when you're not physically healthy, these movements create a risk for injury. And so I would ask of you to ask yourself, how much more complicated would your life be if you couldn't assist your son? You're his arms and his legs in some cases, and this is where fueling yourself with the healthiest nutrition and exercise are essential. That combination gives you the ability to call on your body continually and minimize injury. Financial stress with DMD is immense, from doctor visits, hospital stays, medications, to accessible equipment, cars, and home renovations, but to name a few. And the worry that accompanies all of these will cycle right back to stress, creating exactly the symptoms that we just talked about earlier. And lack of self-care, this is the first thing that we usually eliminate. It affects our overall health by causing exhaustion, the feeling of running on empty, a foggy brain, depression, anger, and many more. And we'll talk about ideas on how to add this important step back into your life. Across the board for caregivers, we see an increase in alcohol, tobacco, and drug use. And these are used improperly to numb the pain, and its negative effects are detrimental to caring for your child. There's anxiety and depression. Again, fear of the unknown, overwhelmed, and sadness. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and obesity. Choosing unhealthy foods and looking to them for comfort, lack of time for meal prep, and in turn increasing weight. These all cause negative effects on our bodies, creating heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. Due to lifting and moving your child and not enough exercise, we find that your bodies are just going to continually ache. There's just no rest there for you. And sleep affected by stress, continual night waking, and anxiety. There's a cycle here. If you look at each category, they point back to the other ones. And, if you're not sleeping, your body's going to ache the next day. You're going to pick foods that aren't healthy for you, which perpetuate obesity. So the cycle's there. And knowing how to avoid those pitfalls will increase the potential that you can avoid the negative effects. So there's a 3-step solution that we're going to look at today. And choosing to be healthy doesn't have to be work. When you take an approach of small steps over time, these can add up to long-standing healthy lifestyle changes. As the picture represents, everything in our lives is interconnected. The impact of being out of balance in one area spills over into the next. An example would be your response to a phone call from a doctor that there's been a change in your son's health. And so you reach for the sleeve of cookies, inhale the whole sleeve of cookies, and your intention was not to sabotage your diet, but what you really needed at that moment was a hug. And the tipping point of the call created you to be overwhelmed and stressed, looking to food for comfort. It's all about creating awareness. Being healthy and being able to provide the best care for your son can be achieved by incorporating this 3-step solution, and we're going to talk about each area of it. The first area is to reflect. Most of us do not stop during our day and purposefully go through a checklist of our overall wellness. But in order to achieve and maintain balance, there has to be an awareness. And notice I keep going back to that awareness and just knowing what's going on. So, to ask yourself, what is your stress level today? Are you in flight or fight mode? Are you humming along? Or are you just holding it together at the seams? What are you craving? Are you craving salty? Are you craving sweet? I focus strongly with my clients on being aware of what they're craving and why is it. I ask them, are they hangry, which is hungry, angry. You fed everybody, took care of everybody, but you forgot to eat yourself. Now you're at the point of anger. I have them ask themselves, halt. Are you hungry? Are you angry? Are you lonely? Are you tired? What's the reason that you're reaching to food at that point in time? Also, I would have you ask yourself, how balanced are your moods? Do you swing from calm and content to raging and ready to blow at any minute? Do you feel like the day's in charge of you and you're not in charge of your own choices? It's awareness. Once this is established, you can manage the stress or what's causing the issue and taking care of yourself that you'd like to change. What do you personally need to be present? Truly in the moment, not 10 steps ahead, not all the worries ahead, but really just being right there for your son. And the things are, have you had a break this week? Is there self-care that you have in your schedule? Jen, can you tell us what you found if you don't implement some form of self-care, and what is self-care for you?
What I have found over the course of the year with Danny being home and needing much more care is that my max limit is 2 weeks. Now, there was not always a point in time where there was someone that could come in and stay with him for a couple hours. We had to go through training and train someone that I felt confident that I could leave him. I know that I cannot go past 2 weeks. I've tried to push it to 3 weeks, and I am a mess. I scream and yell. Every little thing gets to me. Every little thing bothers me. Just the simplest task that I have no problem doing for him becomes annoying. And for the rest of the family, helping Timmy with something, helping Nico with something, everything becomes annoying. So I know that once every 2 weeks for 3 hours, I need to get out of the house. In fact, right now I'm at the beach while we're taking our call. But it's my sanity. It's how I can be the best mom and caregiver for my family. And it might not work for everybody else. Maybe you need more time than that. Maybe you need less time than that. But for me, that's what I need to do.
I love that. I'm glad that you found what can restore you to keep going through that point. All right, the next component is to replenish. So how are you going to avoid all those traps that sort of suck us in? You've got the awareness because you reflected on everything. And so now we all know when you get on an airplane, they tell you as the adults put your oxygen mask on first, and then to put the oxygen mask on the child, a person next to you that needs help. This relates to life as well. If we turn to our child innately and take care of all their needs first and put ourselves last, we can't help them. And so in order to avoid some of those traps, things that you can do would be prep. This is key first and foremost. And when your day is planned out, even if it goes completely the other direction, at least you had a starting sense of balance. You're better to avoid the traps and make choices that you want to follow through on your goals. The next would be heavy foods. My advice would be to steer clear of them during the day. Make choices that are closer to the way that nature intended. Whole grains if you can tolerate them. Good protein, lots of veggies. When our bodies have to digest heavily processed foods and oversized meals, the main focus of our body at that point is taken away from providing energy and clarity to get through the day. An example of a healthy day would be hard-boiled eggs with smoothie for breakfast, mixed greens with veggies and black beans for lunch with a piece of fruit, hummus and veggies for dinner, grilled chicken, quinoa, and veggies for dinner. Now, I know some of you hear that and say, yeah, right, that's not going to happen in my day. It starts small. It starts with one change that you make in your day, and then it grows from there. The next part would be step away from the sugar. The donut, the candy bar, that really sugary Starbucks drink that we're going to drink, it's going to give you an immediate rush, and you're going to crash just as quickly, even probably harder than when you started. Your liver and your pancreas have to go into overtime to compensate for the surge of sugar, and now you're going to feel even more tired because your body's focusing on leveling out your blood sugar instead of giving you the energy that you need. Sugar will affect your mood as well as making you feel more stressed and less productive, and eventually this is going to project onto your home and your family. Be aware where your mood is and what you can do to modify it. If you're overwhelmed or angry, use the recharge techniques that we're going to talk about. Keep track of your energy or mood for a week and see if there's a pattern there. You know, like Jen said, she gets to the 2-week point, knows she needs a break. Where does your break need to happen for you to be able to keep taking care of your son to the best of your ability? I can support you in finding ways to make positive changes. Another way would be to have a plan for your menu for the week. This is a huge stress reliever. Sounds simple, but it's huge. When you know that dinner is in the crock pot cooking or the ingredients are in the fridge that are waiting for you to make dinner, you're not going to resort to takeout or sabotaging foods because you know that there's healthy options that are waiting for you. The next part of replenishing is hydration. I can't stress this component enough to you. Feelings of exhaustion and irritability are symptoms of lack of water. So my suggestion would be begin your day while your coffee and tea are perking and drink 20 ounces of water. It totally sets the tone for your day. Have a water bottle on the counter or in your bag for car rides. Keep it with you at all points in time. You're already dehydrated once you start to feel thirsty. Avoid the soda trap. Not only is it high in sugars and unwanted calories, and yes, even diet soda asks of our organs to work harder, but it will increase dehydration. As far as whole foods, bring it back to nature. Half your plate should be veggies, and the other good protein, chicken, fish, beans. Organic ideal, but not essential if you're just beginning. Choose energizing foods like citrus and hydrating fruits. Watermelon would be an example. These are the whole foods are the foundations to cell repair and function, vitamins and nutrients for our bodies to work optimally. And avoid exposure to toxic processed foods that increase the possibility of heart disease, diabetes, and cancer, just to name a few. And here's a key point. Keep in mind that no diet fits all. One man's food is another man's poison. Eat what's going to work for your system. Jen, this made me think about last year when you were getting ready to go for conference and you made a big change in your family's approach to whole foods. Can you just tell us a little bit about packing for that trip?
We drove to Chicago from New Jersey, so I think it took about 14 hours. Typically we drive out to Cincinnati for Danny's doctor's appointments, and when we travel, that's usually the free-for-all for we're going to have chips and cookies. You know, that's the time of year that we allow it. I had decided that since we had started on this journey of no processed foods and limited sugar, that I was going to try something different, and I prepared all of the foods that we would have at home, and we brought a big cooler in the car. I put them all in mason jars. We had grilled chicken. We did several dozen hard-boiled eggs, yogurt, cut up tons of fresh fruits and veggies, stuck them all in mason jars, ice packs, and then we called ahead to the hotel to make sure that they had a big refrigerator in our room to be able to put all the food in. And then the only meal that we were really eating out was dinner, because breakfast and lunch and snacks were what we were accustomed to, and it didn't really change our eating habits too much.
Right, and I think that's great. That goes back to the whole concept of prep. When you have the ability to look forward to where you're going and what you're going to need, yes, it takes a little bit of time, but even the prep work can be cut into smaller little chunks and keep it to whole food. The last component of replenishing would be healthy fats. Most of us here are of the low-fat generation, and when foods began to change and fat was removed, it was replaced with sugar. Hence why Americans have subsequently gotten fatter since the change. Good fat, makes us feel full and helps assimilate nutrients into our bodies. So if you were to eat a vegetable with a healthy fat, you're going to grab more of those vitamins from, say, a piece of broccoli. And those choices would be nuts and seeds and some great avocado and some really nice olive oil. You can incorporate them back into your meals, just choosing healthy options. Steer clear of trans fats and saturated fats, and those you're going to find by reading the labels of the food that you buy. The next part would be to recharge, and this is where now we've learned how to feed our bodies well. Now you need to maintain balance and bring it back to center during your chaotic day. And so what I would ask of everybody right now is to just take a moment and take a really big deep breath right into your stomach. And to just do it one more time. Most of us do not breathe past the upper third of our chest during the day. If you ever stop to pay attention to yourself, you'll think you're breathing just enough to exist, but that really stress-relieving deep breath doesn't happen a lot during the day. And so a very easy recharge is just stand there and take a deep breath. If you're somebody who meditates, quick meditation would be great. Even just simple sitting in a chair for a moment can sometimes bring you back to center. Stretching for all of you is key because of the amount of lifting that you do. Take a few moments during your day and just do some of those good old-fashioned gym stretches that we've all learned. The next part goes back again to quick and energizing snacks, and that's the whole food. Nuts and an apple, hummus and vegetables, a whole grain bread with peanut butter or avocado. Avoid that 3 o'clock slump. If you're getting ready to take a dip in the afternoon, you know that around 3 or 4 o'clock you're going down. Make sure that around 2 o'clock you've had yourself a really nice kind of healthy snack in there. And again, water, water, water. The next part of recharging is to move. Change your surroundings, get outside, take that deep breath in the fresh air, go for a walk around the block if your setup allows you to do that. Just give yourself a little break there. I guarantee you that if you can take those 2 minutes, it'll give your batteries enough of a recharge to get yourself through the afternoon. As a caregiver, to care for yourself, wellness has to be a priority. And I broke this down into 5 different categories for you. Diet, I'm a big follower of 90-10. If 90% of the time you're eating well, good protein, lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains if you can tolerate them, and water, then 10% of the time you can splurge. On that chaotic night, get takeout. Have a plan so you're not tempted to choose highly processed, unhealthy foods. Look to fuel yourself with nutritious foods that will help decrease inflammation, which we know is a precursor to disease, and it'll give you long-lasting energy. The next component is rest, and this is an area that you will find is not always in your control. Nighttime wake-up calls from your children is unfortunately part of DMD. Make sure when you can that you're getting the best quality sleep. Stick to set bedtime and wake-up time. And it sounds like limitations that we put on small children, but just like them, when we haven't had enough sleep, we're not at our best. Eliminate the intake of heavy evening meals, caffeine, and alcohol, which can all affect our sleep. Try to have a routine where you have quiet and dim light. It lets your brain know that you're getting ready to go to sleep. Avoid laying in bed with an electronic or lights, bright lights at your eyes. This can trick your brain to thinking that it's time to work, not to sleep. stress reduction. Think of a place or an activity that you find most relaxing. Jen, clearly today the beach is where she needed to be. Try and come close to replicating that feeling. A walk on the beach, a massage, a date night with your significant other or friend. Again, a nice cup of tea in your favorite chair sometimes is enough. And keep in mind that these don't have to be large chunks of time. That's where Jen really was talking about it being individualized. Some people may only have 10 minutes and no break in their day, and other people may have those larger chunks of time. Take what you can in order to recharge your batteries. And the next part is exercise. Implementing an exercise routine will decrease stress levels, control your weight, and create mental strength. And pick what you like. Don't just pick running because it's the thing to do. Find what sparks your interest, and you'll be more apt to stick with it. Crucial to exercise is get a buddy or a group. Accountability is huge. When you know someone's waiting for you on the corner at 5:30 in the morning, you're probably not going to roll back over and hit the snooze button. Now, here's a catch to that. If you're someone who doesn't have a live person near you that could be your buddy, you can set it up so you text each other. I have clients that I text at 5:20 in the morning. I'm an early riser. And I just say, all right, get up, time to get the day started. Find somebody that you can be accountable to, and they're going to make sure that you're doing what you should do. The last component is to avoid alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. These all add to decrease our ability to think clearly. They create an overall health issue from addiction, cardiac issues, to cancer, to name a few. Look for other avenues to relax and unwind, such as reading, calm music. If you can go to sleep, go get that much-needed sleep. And again, if you meditate, that would be a good time to do that as well. And here's a big one for all of you. Know your limits. It's impossible for anyone to be everything to everyone. Look for ways to reduce your stress and your anxiety, as we just spoke about, in making wellness a priority. Refuel your energy tank. Fill yourself with nutritious foods and hydrate. Plan timeouts and self-care. All of your day can go completely haywire, but if you start out knowing that there's a moment for yourself to catch your breath in the day, it's going to make your day easier. Now, nothing is perfect. There may be days where you've planned self-care and something happens to derail your plan. Get it back in the schedule. It may not be that day, but find the next available time that could possibly work for you. Support is key. Not everyone has family or friends around that are capable or able to help. So if you do, lean on them. It's all right to ask for help. You are able to give better care to your son when you're refreshed and not frazzled. If you don't have accessibility to help, what I would say is implement moments during your day or your week where you can sit in a chair and just take a few moments to breathe. I research and apply to available assistance programs. Even if you're still in the house and somebody's there just lending a hand to you, someone to talk to your son or sit and play Xbox with them, you can remove yourself just right nearby and be able to just catch your breath and not have to be the it person at that moment. Along the lines of support, Jen, and you and I have talked a lot about this one, and if you would share with everybody the story about when Danny came up to us and he needed some help to go to the bathroom.
We had just finished preparing dinner, and it was the first time I had sat down in a long while, and he had come up and said he had to go to the bathroom. And I had said, Aunt Amy will help you. And Aunt Amy said, he doesn't want me. And I stood up and I huffed, as you can only do with a sister, and I said, well, I need you. And I walked out of the room and I helped him go to the bathroom. And I came back, and because I have a really good sister who could have told me to go scratch, instead she said, can we talk about this? Because I was being very cold. And I said, sure, what do you want to talk about? And she said, if that's what you need, I can do that for you. But we need to talk to Danny about it first. And Danny and I need to have a conversation that I am available to help him with something so private so that it could give Mom a break. And I never looked at it that way because it's something that he just needs help with. And I knew it was something she could do. And for us, it worked. It might not it might not be an Ann, it might be somebody else. But for me, it was what I needed more than what Danny needed at the moment. But in turn, we needed to talk to him about it first, so that we all know they only want us. They only want what they're comfortable with. And then to touch on something else you had just said about somebody else in the house, even if you're there, I remember Pat Furlong once saying that her house was where she made her house the place that she wanted all the boys wanted to come to. And I took that to heart. And I will have the best snacks, and I will have drinks and sodas, and we are very blessed with our neighborhood. Just having one extra child there who cares about Danny and can pick up the remote and can pick up the Xbox controller if it falls, even if it's only a half an hour that they come to visit and play with him, that's a half an hour that I'm not the one picking up everything that drops.
Yeah, I think that is a great example. I think the first part when you and I, as you as the caregiver and I as your support, were able to have a conversation, not always so seamless, like Jen said. You might not have people that are able to listen to you or have the kind of relationship that we do, but try it. I would not have known, short of just knowing my sister as well as I do, that was something that was ready to send her over the edge that day. But crucial to that point was, with your boys, it's not going to, it's going to be a little harder when you have the younger people who have younger boys, but the older boys, have a conversation with them. Explain to them why you need a break. They get it. They know it. And find out from them who are the people that they trust, that they're okay to help them with, not necessarily just those very private things, but in general other things. And I think, yesterday I was at Jen's and Danny came in. I had to go to the bathroom and I jumped right up to help. I knew where my place was, and Jen knew somebody had her back and she could keep doing what she was doing. The next part is being present, and we started to talk about this a little bit before, and that's being right there in the moment, not being 10 steps ahead, not worrying about the things that we can't control right now. I'm sure some of you have heard this story before, but I wanted to tell you about Stephen Covey is a time management author, and he talks about the concept of big rocks, and everyone can learn a lesson from this. And so the story of big rocks is you have a bucket which resembles your life, and you have big rocks, which are your priorities, the most important things. Then you have pebbles. These are urgent, busy, non-important tasks, those day-to-day things. And then you have sand. This is noise. This is those interruptions that come into the day that if they weren't there, you would not miss them. So his exercise is he says take the sand and put it into the bucket, and then take the pebbles and put them into the bucket. Now try to take those big rocks and fit them into the bucket. They're not going to fit. But if we were to reverse it and take the bucket, put the big rocks in first, put the pebbles in next, they'll feed in between the big rocks, and then pour the sand in, and most of the sand will fit, maybe not all of it, but again, maybe we don't need all the sand. And the sand's going to kind of infuse in between the rocks and the pebbles. The point of the story is you are a big rock. You are a priority, just like your son's a priority. Now, keep in mind, everyone's priorities are different. What's going to work for your family is not necessarily going to be the same for the family next to you. So we need to give our energy to the things that are important. Have open communication, again, with those that you live with and that you rely on. Be organized. I know I've talked about prep. I know we've talked about it on a couple different slides. When you're not organized, it's going to add stress for falling behind. Whether this is through work, through home, through relationships, it's going to increase the overall stress that goes on in your body. For caregivers, as Jen talked about before, guilt rears its ugly head on many fronts. Have I done enough? I shouldn't take time for myself. I just don't want to do this today, and I'm angry. First of all, acknowledge that you feel all of that. Those feelings are real. Then take a deep breath. Choose to be present in the moment. My sister does. My sister does this very well. And so, Jen, what I would ask of you is, could you explain to everybody the choice that you made last summer to your family to be present?
So, yes. So what I chose, what Dan and I chose to do may not work for everyone. When Danny was diagnosed with the congestive heart failure, it rocked our world. When we were told that they didn't know what the next couple months would bring, it was a game changer. It was a light. It was a wake up call. It was whatever you want to call it. Since Faces began, I've been, along with my cohort Suzanne, we've been, helping run that program. I knew for me, I needed Duchenne to go away. I needed the Duchenne world to go away. I needed to only focus on the 5 people in my home and allow everything in as I was able to allow it in. I knew that we had fostered a group of people that would take over and that would pick up the pieces, and that the next set of parents that had that in them would pick up those pieces and take care of that, that my time, although be it short, because Danny is only 13, that my time in the race to find that cure had to take a back seat. And that, someday that will become my priority again. But for my family, and for myself, what had to happen to protect myself emotionally, physically, and to be the best mom and wife that I could be, I needed to step back and not allow all of that else stuff that's going on into my world. And slowly but surely, I let pieces back in that I'm comfortable with and able to do. I make a conscious effort to not have my phone around when the kids are around, unless we're all sitting around doing something on our phone. And to truly live each event and each moment and each day as if we woke up tomorrow and he was gone. I will have no regrets. That was a wake-up call for us, and I don't know. I know this is going to sound very contradictory, but we are very thankful that we had that wake-up call, because it forced us to put into perspective what our priorities are.
Yeah, and I think I wanted Jen to tell that story, one, because last summer, clearly we're with them all the time, and we were able to watch this all unfold and cast a little bit of a safety net around them so we could shield them from whatever they needed, at that moment in time. But her family, for them, and Jen made a key point, and I hope you all take away from today, you have to do what works for your family. Being present is going to be how you define it. And I wanted really Jen to tell that story because I don't want you, and I'm sure my sister would agree with me, to race against the clock maybe to find being present. Most of us, as caregivers or dealing with a negative situation, even somebody who doesn't have that, should be present. This is what life is about. Give to those big rocks, those priorities that are really, really important to your family. This next one, these are some of my favorite pictures from this year. And some of those days, those smiles started fake, and they were followed by silent heartbreak. And I love the saying, fake it until you make it. And some days you want to crawl back into bed or hibernate from the world, and focus on the negative is so much easier some days than making the choice to have a great day. We choose to wake up and force that smile every day. We look for the small funnies that happen and the blessings around us, no matter how small. Look for those little blessings, and some days it might be a blip, and some days it might be something big. But give yourself something positive to look at, or maybe turn it a little differently so you're looking at it through a different optic, and not necessarily focus on the negative. It doesn't take it away, but maybe it just pushes it to the corner for a little bit for you. Laughter boosts all levels of your health. And I find, Jen, you and I were talking a couple days ago about fake it until you make it. Do you have anything to add to that?
I think every single person that's called into this call knows exactly what you're referring to.
Right. So the next, we're almost near the end of the call, but there's no other job that's going to test you and stretch you like being a caregiver. And I admire you all for putting your son above everything else. But I urge you to remember that this work as heroes, which I believe you all are, cannot be done unless you start to take care of yourself first. Your boys need you. They need you healthy, and they need you happy most days. And I hope you take what we talked about today and begin to implement these habits into your daily life. Keep in mind, it's progression. It's not perfection. You're not going to take everything that we talked about today and implement it by tomorrow morning and life is going to be great. That's not reality. There's going to be bumps in the road. But if you have something to fall back on to make it a little bit easier for you, then I think you'll find that the road gets a little bit, smoother on some days. On those days where there's a bump, just refocus and take a deep breath and take that first step. The last part of today is I'm here to help you. If what we spoke about today resonates with you and you need more support, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My programs are tailored to individuals and groups, and we can all use a guide by our side and someone who holds a space for us without judgment. I don't see any questions in our queue. If you come up with questions, just email them either to PPMD or to myself, and we can get you those answers. Thank you again to PPMD for allowing me to reach out to all of you. Thank you, Jen, for jumping on and sharing some of your private family with us. And especially thank you to all of you for doing the work of heroes.